Welcome to the Behind the Vision podcast. In this episode with Trent, we explore his journey to launching the state adventure bucket list, what it's like building a business with your significant other, and becoming a full-time content creator. I hope you enjoy the show. I listened to the podcast yesterday.
Really?
Just to get an understanding of where you were, where I was at that time, and
That's so funny.
even listening back to what you were chatting about of your goals and everything, they were
Yeah.
so different
Then
from
now.
what you're doing now.
Yeah.
We didn't even chat anything about what you're doing now.
That's so funny. I was thinking, now that I think about it, I was like, if you ask me stuff today about what's your background? It's none of that stuff is even relevant to the story anymore.
Yeah.
It's just funny, or a lot of it, where it's I did this, but that's such a small part of the story now, you know? So weird.
Yeah. And we'll get into some of the things too that you're doing now, but even with the Rio, Reach International Outfitters, and just Rio Travelers, that wasn't even things that we chatted about initially.
Yeah.
Our first conversation for the first podcast was around digital marketing and things you were doing with brands.
Yep.
And I remember you said one of your goals for the future was to have different venues for weddings.
Oh yeah.
And partner with different photographers and videographers.
Yep. For sure.
So
yeah, I remember that was at the time. It's there's definitely a space for it. I'm glad. It's funny. I kind of quit running in that direction shortly before COVID, and sure, I'm glad I did. Wouldn't have been a great time to be in the wedding marketing industry when everyone was canceling weddings. So,
yeah,
wild, wild, man.
Yeah, that's funny. What kind of made you? Do you feel specifically COVID that made you want to just get out of that industry and pursue something new?
Yeah. So, I guess from 2017 to kind of 2020, I was really doing digital marketing, helping other companies build, primarily Facebook advertising, email marketing. And it was really great. But what I realized is I was helping bring a lot of companies from $200,000-300,000 a year up to 2 million, 3 million, even 5 million a year. And by that time, it's sweet, I did all this work. A lot of that growth, obviously there's a lot going on, but a lot of that growth comes from the new customer acquisition, which I was driving. And at the end of the day, it's we did that 10x growth, and I was still getting the same retainer every month. It's a little increase or that kind of thing. But at that point, that was just kind of when I started being I've been building a lot of other people's businesses. Really love to build my own. It's time to kind of make that shift. So had always been looking for an opportunity to kind of build my own brand, but that was when it really got set into motion.
Yeah. And you kind of started with a clothing brand almost through Reach International Outfitters.
Yep. So way back. So I had launched Reach International Outfitters in 2015, and it was a hammock and clothing brand. And I was working as a missionary working in Central America, and we were supposed to fundraise part of our salary, and I didn't want to fundraise, so I started this brand, and it was basically hey, if this brand can bring in $12,000 a year or something, then I'll be in really good shape. So I really started it as not something that it needed to be a full-time job, but just something to get me $12,000 a year. And it did well for that, but then I just kind of at some point just kind of let it sit in the background for a while until bringing it back in 2022, almost 5 years of just laying low.
Mm-hmm. And you've been doing a lot in the e-commerce digital marketing space for a long time too.
Yeah.
Just the hammocks.
Yep.
Just always in that space working with different brands.
Yep.
So it's really cool for just me as an outside observer to see everything you're doing now, because it feels so well deserved on your end, because it's you put so much work almost up front to now you're I have such a good understanding of maybe things that work well and what don't work well.
Yeah.
And it's your time now. It feels everything you've been working for.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's crazy how everything works together. And like, I think as an entrepreneur, yeah, no, nice. Yeah, I think it's crazy because as an entrepreneur, it's like you have such swings where it's like one day you're high and you're like, this is the best thing ever. I love it. Like, it's totally working. And then like the very next day, you're like, it's all going to fall apart. I don't know if I can keep this going. And it's funny because over the last, I haven't had, I guess, a paycheck. Like, I haven't had a job since 2017. So 6-7 years, something like that. And over those 6 years or whatever it's just been those constant like ups and downs, and like you're switching things, you're seeing new opportunities and everything. But it's funny because I started, like, the brief rundown is 2015 to 2016. I first started that hammock brand. So I figured out how to do physical products. Like, I figured out what it looks like to launch your own brand, to have to find a manufacturer overseas. Like, what does it look like to actually get your products on a ship and get it landed? So kind of work through like the product side. And then I took this window of time where I was doing the digital marketing consulting and like running paid media for people. So I really learned Facebook and Instagram, and got to use other people's money to learn and really like figure out that skill. And then I kind of switched. Like, then Sarah and I started doing content where it's like we started making this short form video content, really diving hard into TikTok and Instagram. And it's funny because like a year ago today, Sarah and I were in Peru. We had just gotten back hiking from Machu Picchu. And I was like, this is amazing. But like, I don't know, man. I was like, the altitude was getting to me. I was like exhausted. I was like super pumped, and also just like having a crisis. And I was like, I had like a breakdown in our room, and I was like, I keep switching lanes. Like, I was doing physical products, and then I like stopped that, and I went and I did digital marketing, and then I kind of stopped that, and now we're doing content. And it's like, like they've all like worked, but what would have happened if I just would have like stuck with one of them? And I kind of had this breakdown, and Sarah's so good at just encouraging and like speaking truth. And she was like, like everything has been there for a reason. Like those hard skills that you've learned in different areas, like dividends will keep paying. And it's funny, sitting here a year later, it's like we launched our own brand, and we knew how to do the products because I've done it before. Like, we knew what it looked like to make physical products and land them. We know how to make content that converts and sells because now we've been doing that. And then, now we need to put some ad spend behind it and really like light the fire. It's like, that's right. Like, I did 3 years of running paid ads, and it's just so funny sitting here a year later from my like breakdown of like, I just keep switching lanes to like, all three of those things are like the three cores that are building this brand for us. And it's really cool.
Yeah. What did you learn about just that breakdown experience in that moment? Was it something like, hey, I just need to pursue something for even longer, or just keep on going with it?
Yeah, it was hard because, at first it's like, this next thing I have to do, I just have to like stick it out. But like, that was my initial reaction, is like, I guess like this next time it's just like stick it out no matter what. But I think just giving myself grace to be like, it's actually okay to follow a path and make that turn. And really just the idea of sometimes you don't even see that door until you get to the end of the hallway. It's like you had to go down the hallway to see that next door. You never would have gotten to that next thing if you didn't take the path originally. So I think just had to give myself a lot of grace and be like, one, like my identity isn't found in my production and what I'm doing. So like, I need to not ascribe my worth based on that. Like, and then number two is it's like, I think, it's actually okay to jump from thing to thing. But then when you do get that softball, like when you get that like easy pitch, it's like, you don't get too many of those. So when you see it, like that's when you got to take your shot and go all in. And I think we're right now we're at the all in moment,
Yeah,
so,
it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's really fun to see too.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Like even things that I've done in the past, I'm like, to like do the podcast, or even when you do work and you're like, what is this leading up to? Like, where am I going with this thing? It's like, now it's kind of that moment where you've done a lot of things that maybe you're confused about.
Right.
Where you're doing things and like, where's the value in this? Until you actually get to the moment where like you see the value of what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah, I feel like it's similar, like seeing what you're doing, where it's like, it's all aligned. Like, it's all in a similar space, right? But there are like the different avenues, and it's like, yeah, just knowing it's like, while these have like times where they are like clearly like synced up, it's like all that comes together and like builds for something even better in the end.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Yeah. And you guys were on TikTok super early, weren't you?
Yeah.
Just like posting. I mean, were you like one of the first travel content creators on TikTok?
Yeah, man.
go.
Yeah. So our TikTok story, 2019, Sarah and I got married in July. And in August, I started seeing about TikTok. I was like, oh, what's this TikTok app? Like, okay. Kind of got on it. At the time, Sarah and I were both following different like travel creators on Instagram and YouTube. So like we knew that space. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I wonder if any of those creators are on TikTok yet. So we started looking up all of our favorite creators, like travel creators. No one's on TikTok. And we're like, well, there's not really travel content on TikTok. And I was like, all right, you know what, Sarah? We don't even have to be good. We can just be the only ones. Like, let's go start creating travel content. It doesn't have to be that good because no one else is doing it. So let's just go. And she was like, I don't know. Like, she was working full-time as a nurse. And I was kind of like, okay, like, what do you mean? And I was like, all right, here's the deal. Let's just book a trip to Mexico, 5 days. We're going to go down there. It's a business trip, okay? We're just going to go. We're going to shoot as much content on our iPhones.
No fun.
No fun. We can't have any fun. We're just going to shoot as much content as we can. We're just going to post a bunch of TikToks and we're going to see what happens. And Sarah was kind of like, okay, I don't know if I believe in this, but sure, I'll go to Mexico for 5 days, pretty easy sell. So we did. So we flew down there, filmed a ton of footage. I mean, we were kind of in like the Tulum area. So lots of like cenotes. I remember doing like a silly dance trend in front of Chichen Itza, like one of the wonders of the world. I was like, this is going to be our breakthrough. Got like 4 views. That was sweet.
Let's go.
But yeah, just filmed a bunch of content there and then got back and started posting. And yeah, had a few breakthrough. And within like 2 months, we were up to like 100,000 followers. And yeah, then it was really a decision of like, what are we going to do with this? Because so now we're at the beginning of 2020 and we were going on a trip to Thailand. So we're like, sweet, we know we're going to get a lot more content. I started kind of reaching out to like different brands and stuff just to be like, hey, is anyone interested in this? And like brands had no interest in TikTok, like no interest. They were just like, nope, like we're not really exploring it right now. Not even interested in like a free exchange. And I remember talking to Sarah and we're just like, okay, one thing that we know is over time, like money follows attention. Like wherever attention is, money will flow that way. It's why Super Bowl commercials cost so much money. It's because there's so many eyes on it, right? There's nowhere in the world where there's a ton of attention and it's not being monetized. Yeah. So we had to say, all right, there's 2 ways that this could go. Either one, TikTok is just going to like fade and there's not going to be attention. Or 2, TikTok's going to grow and there's going to be attention. And as soon as there's attention, money's going to flow in. So we kind of made the bet on, hey, I really think this app is going to blow up. So we doubled down, we tripled down. And yeah, we knew like, hey, we're probably not going to get brand deals. We're probably not going to get money out of this we were kind of prepared for 12 months. We're like, I think for 12 months we might be posting videos and brands won't come. But then it really only took like 6 months. It was like by that summer, kind of original COVID lockdowns, it's like all of a sudden the app boomed and all of a sudden everyone tried to get their money onto the app. So kind of a bet we made that panned out.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
When was your first brand deal?
That's a good question. So let's see. We did some little stuff in like March of that year. Just with like, I remember we did it with like Filmora, like Wondershare, like a video editing software. So we're like, excited about that. But then, yeah, didn't have much until I think that first summer. All of a sudden, like we had someone reach out to us, and we were probably at that point quoting. Like if somebody reached out and was like, "What would it cost for a deal?" Like we did one with Keen, like shoes.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because, sorry, Keen, if you're watching this, but they sent us just these total, like, really ugly, like, mom shoes, and Sarah had to wear them. And we made this TikTok, and, like, the TikTok went viral, kind of because of how ugly those shoes were. Oh, no. So funny. Sarah was so embarrassed. She was like, no, why is it going so far?
Oh, no.
But, like, a deal like that.
No
it's
memes,
like,
though. Oh, Sarah, no?
No
Okay,
memes, luckily.
good.
No, lots of, like, what are those comments? But luckily nothing that's lasted. But like they reached out, and I think we quoted, we're like, oh yeah, we'll do it for like $300. And they were like, sure. And so we're pumped at like $300.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a month later, we got reached out to by like a company that does cruises basically. And they just offered, they didn't even ask us the budget. They were like, so here's the deal. Like, we'd love to do like one TikTok for $3,000. And I remember Sarah and I just being like, what? Like, that's 10 times like the made up rate that we have or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of our like light bulb moment of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, money's like coming to this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, brands are starting to wake up, you know?
Yeah, and they came to you
And they came
with
to
how
us
much
for
they're
that
willing
one.
to spend.
Yeah, right.
Wow, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, that was where it was like, okay, Sarah, you can quit your nursing. Like, let's just run at this, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like just that journey you guys were on with creating content and being paid to like travel and stuff.
Yeah.
It's what a lot of people either dream about achieving or pursuing that dream.
Yeah.
Whether it be through like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. So it's really cool for you guys to be able to haven't doubled down early on that platform. And then now you have brands reaching out to like even the most recent ones, if you want to chat about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working with was really cool.
For sure. Yeah, it's been super cool because I think a lot of times people are like, how exactly do you like monetize it? Like, what does that look like? You know? And yeah, at first it was a lot of just like product. So it was like, okay, we're shooting this like shoe like company or apparel, you know, maybe a video editing app. And then it was kind of like as the doors to travel started to open back up after like the COVID era, all of a sudden we started getting deals that were actually in the tourism industry. So now it's like over the last 2 years, it's like we've worked with different governments. Like there's a huge section where now like government tourism boards are paying creators to come out. It's like instead of putting out a magazine that says, come visit West Virginia, it's like they're hiring us to come out, shoot a bunch of reels showing what it's like to whitewater raft and hike in the fall colors. And like, that's where they're putting their money. So yeah, so we've got to do some really cool tourism board deals with places like West Virginia, Williamsburg. We got to go to Abu Dhabi for one of those. Tenerife, which is one of the Canary Islands off of Spain.
Okay.
Trying to think. Yeah, so like those were just like almost like government jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of that, it's like we've had some really cool opportunities. We have kind of a long-standing partnership with Norwegian Cruise Line. So we go on like 3 cruises a year with Norwegian, and like their team is awesome. Like we love working with their marketing team, and they give us a lot of creative freedom where it's like go on this trip and just like really show people what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Like and Sarah and I were like, we didn't really think we were cruise people, but like going on these cruises, it was like, there's a really fun way to do it. And like, we just got back from sailing Australia and New Zealand with them. And it was like, I didn't know you could sail Australia and New Zealand. And next month we're leaving out of like Athens, Greece, and we're going to Israel.
Oh.
And we get to go to like Jerusalem and like see lots of like historical like Christian sites, which is like Israel's a huge bucket list spot for me and Sarah. So I had no idea we could cruise there. So it's like, and now we're getting paid to go do that trip, you know? And then, all kinds of, hotel chains like Marriott or IHG, and then getting to work with like airline partners. Like we just got back from a Delta campaign this last week, and so weird. I mean, like 2 years ago, I'd been like, I just had no idea any of that was happening. You know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird.
How has it been for you working with these brands? Like a lot of them reaching out to you, like, hey, we want some content created.
Yep.
Or are you having to reach out to them and be like, hey, we can do this for you?
Yeah. So early on, we did a lot of outbound where I was like, hey, we want to go to this certain place, or we think like this shoe company would be a great fit or whatever. So we did a lot of outbound, and like that was a grind. Like that's a hustle, but it's kind of what you have to do early on. And now for the last year or year and a half, it's like I don't think we've sent an outbound email. It's just people that are now finding us from existing channels or like agencies. And yeah, it's fun to be able to work with different brands and see the different levels of like professionalism, and even which brands really get it, that are like, hey, you're the experts, like you create the video, like where they give very like broad parameters, and then still some that come in and they're like, here's the script, Go film it. And we're like, we don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
we don't just like film, like go hire a I don't know, a model to like read your script, you know?
Yeah.
So it's funny seeing the differences in like internal teams of like what they think the right way to use creators is. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
What's been like your favorite shoot you've been on so far?
Ooh.
Or I
Good.
guess experience, probably not.
Yeah,
really
good
a
question.
shoot.
We got to do a really fun one. It was so Norwegian Cruise Line, they were launching a new ship called Prima this last like August. So they brought us out, they brought a bunch of different creators out, and a bunch of them like we had already been on sailings and on different trips with. So it was just kind of like sailing with a bunch of your best friends for a week. And yeah, it was just a media sailing. So like it was basically people that worked for the cruise line or creators, and I mean, super fun. Like we just got to hang out, enjoy these good restaurants. We like the cruise left from Iceland, and it went like Iceland, England, Ireland. We ended up in France, and then closed out in Amsterdam. And they had like cheat codes. Like the DJs were like on the ship, and we just got to go to this concert and watch cheat codes. And Katy Perry was on the ship.
Oh, nice.
And we were at this like Katy Perry concert with like 300 people. I was like, when was the last time Katy Perry performed for just like 300 people? You know? So that was one of the most like unique. Like you're just and Katy Perry's married to Orlando Bloom. So you're just like walking through the ship and you just like pass Orlando Bloom in the hallway, and you're like, dang, dude.
What's up, man?
Legolas, like you were my childhood hero in Lord of the Rings. So yeah. That was
cool.
a pretty wild trip for sure.
Yeah. What's it like hanging around other content creators?
It's super fun. Yeah, so a lot of trips that we go on now, it's like they bring out lots of creators at the same time. And a lot of those end up being like other travel couples. So there's like this one other couple, Steven and Giselle. They're called the Lover's Passport. And it's funny because we get hit up for a lot of the same jobs as them. Like a lot of times we'll get like a tourism email where it's like, yeah, Hong Kong just reached out, and we'll just like text them and be like, you guys just get Hong Kong? Like, and they're like, yeah. And then we're like, what are you guys gonna quote? And like there's a lot of like transparency in the space where it's like we share all of our rates, and it's like every time that we get to like work with other creators, it's like we're sitting down at dinner just like bouncing ideas off each other, and like you're able to like upsell this, or you were able to leverage this. Okay. And like yeah, it's super fun working with other creators in the space and like having a posture of transparency, because then you all learn so much more, and like we've grown a lot just from being able to work with other creators, see how they like shoot, but then also like hearing what they're doing on the business side. So it's super fun.
Yeah. Does it feel competitive at all?
Oh,
like,
man.
are anyone like vlogging 24/7 and you're just like, dang, he'd be doing that too?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
everybody's.
Dude, our first trip where we were with other creators, I'm pretty sure like everyone there, it was like most people's first trip with like other creators, and I think we all just had like massive like insecurity and imposter syndrome. We were all like watching each other, and you're like, oh man, they're out shooting sunset right now, like okay, we should go too. And like yeah, there was like this weird like insecurity, and then it was like you start having conversations with people and you're like, oh, we all kind of feel imposter syndrome sometimes. Oh, let's actually like work together, be transparent, and then like had huge breakthroughs. So like where now it's like, yeah, we love it. But I think it's a lot of times it's really easy to be competitive when you haven't met people in person. Like it's so easy to just watch other people's like numbers, like, oh, they're having all these videos go viral or whatever it is, and like you compare. But as soon as you start meeting people and you realize it's like everyone's just out here trying to figure it out and have some fun, then it really breaks that down.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally see it where, especially if you're like new to the game, like a lot of you were at the beginning.
Yeah.
Someone's going to get sunset. You're like, oh, maybe I should go get sunset because that's going to be like the best clip.
Oh yeah.
So you're like searching a lot for these best moments. Like how does that feel alters a trip for you? Do you feel like it's more beneficial to be trying to capture these awesome moments, or do you feel like it's taking away a bit of the trip from having to always be like capturing stuff?
It's a really good question. I think a lot of people ask that. Yeah. It's like, okay, you go to Switzerland, but you have to be up at sunrise shooting like the Matterhorn. Like, is that actually fun? And I think like Sarah and I now we're like, what would we do on a vacation? And it's hard to picture going on a vacation where we're not creating some type of content, because creating like genuinely makes it more fun for us now. And it really like enhances the trip. And we've had to like learn what that looks like. Like there's times where now we show up and we're like, all right, should we go like shoot sunset tonight? And we basically are like, what's the sky looking like? You know, where would we be? Is it like a really good spot? And if we're like, okay, if we nail this shot, would we do something with that content? If the answer is like, yeah, then it'd be really good. Then it's like, all right, let's go send it. Like, let's go hike and do sunset. But if we're like, man, even if we like nail this shot, it's just going to sit on our hard drive because it's still not like good enough. Then we're like, let's just not shoot it. Let's just enjoy. Mm-hmm. So early on when we were traveling, like Sarah and I, we felt the need to be like constantly filming and taking photos, everything, everywhere we went, because you never know what you're going to need. And now I think we've gotten a lot better where it's like, there's trips where it's like we wake up, we go shoot sunrise, then all day we're just like enjoying, doing our own thing, like filming candid stuff, you know, a little like vlog style stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, and then we go do sunset. And we don't feel that pressure between the sun to like just jam pack it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it enhances overall.
Yeah, you're probably a little more chill with it too, because we've been doing it for quite some time where you're like, hey, I kind of know the ropes, kind of know what maybe works on like social media and TikTok.
Right.
When working with bigger brands like Delta, do you feel nervous at all working with them? Like, are they going to like the video? Do you go through like a feedback process with them? Do you edit the videos too?
We do, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yep. Yeah, so there's definitely like pressure sometimes with brands where you're like, all right, we gotta get this shot, you know, or we gotta do this. What we've found now is we're really big on storyboarding out exactly what the video is gonna be. So with like with a Delta campaign or something, it's like we're gonna tell them shot by shot, this is what's it's gonna getting on the plane, okay, taking our seat, then we're gonna transition from the seat to a computer showing this or whatever it is. So yeah, with brands, it's like the more that we can storyboard it out and say, this is what's going to be on screen, this is what the voiceover is going to say, and then we get them to clear the concept, then all we have to do is go shoot that. And it makes it so much easier and like less pressure because we know it's like, okay, here's our shot list of like the 8 things we have to get. Instead of like, we shoot a bunch and then we like make this video and like, surprise, here it is. And then they get it and they're like, oh, that's not what we wanted. And you're like, well, shoot, we don't really have other content. So like, I don't know how we're going to make this work.
Yeah.
So just in general, like the more that we can get out ahead of it, like before we start filming, that really takes the pressure off.
Yeah. And I suppose storyboarding like you do helps a lot because you're like, this is kind of going to be the theme of the video.
Right.
If you like it, great. This is what the clips are going to look like. If not, then they're not going to like the end result
for
of the
sure.
video.
Right. Right. And there are times where like we submit the concept and storyboard it out and they're like, oh, like, no, could you do something totally like this? And we're like, sure. Like, it's really easy to change our plan before we've put in hours like shooting it, you know? So yeah, it's just good to like, I think as creators, it's like the more you can just over communicate with brands in general, like the more that you're going to take a lot off your shoulders.
Do you think about AI in video much? Or is that just, you just kind of living in the present, like thinking that's too far out right now?
I don't know, man. It's right around the corner, right? Like there's already people using stuff. I don't know if you've seen like the AI where it's even just, so like the video AI where I could be looking at the camera and then it like tracks my eyes. And then all of a sudden I can be reading a script down here, but it's like editing. So it looks like my eyes are looking at the camera while I'm like reading a script here. And it's like, that's already out there. Like I know people using that AI in their videos and it's like they can produce content so much faster. Yeah. Or like the ones where, I don't know if you've seen, but like so we do a lot of voiceover stuff. So I've been looking, there's like this software now where you can upload different recordings of your voice, just saying different things. Like not like you have to say everywhere in the dictionary. You just like upload a couple different samples and then you literally like type a script and it will like give you an audio of your voice doing it. And it sounds really accurate.
Dang.
And like, so that's one where I'm looking at doing it because I'm like, dude, if I just upload my voice and then all I have to do is write scripts or have ChatGPT write me some scripts, then I can like pass off this audio with these video clips to someone else to edit. And it's like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Things are going to keep changing so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where things go. I mean, there's definitely, of course, power in a community you've built of people. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I know those people. As long as they're not creating content that looks like you
Right.
without your approval.
Oh my goodness.
There's some power in that and power of verification for things. But yeah, I could just see it getting crazy. Like, you can have different clips of like the president saying like weird stuff. Like they've already done that.
Right.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna get to a point where it's like, what's true, what's false.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you even manage that?
I know. It's gonna get really crazy because we're in this age where, like, for the longest time you had to see something with your own eyes to believe it, and then we got into this phase. So yeah, we used to be in a spot where you had to see something with your own eyes to believe it. Then, you know, the internet, but especially social media, blew up, and like all of a sudden you just saw like the hot air balloons in Cappadocia. It's like everyone was seeing these hot air balloons in Turkey, right? And you were seeing it because it was all over social media. And it's like we're gonna get to this spot now where like video can be faked so easily that like there's gonna be this like new desire to go back to like seeing everything with your own eyes, because it's like that's the only way you can fully believe something's authenticity. It's like, it's gonna be kind of funny. It's like, yeah, we went from like you had to travel to see it to like, oh, now you can just like watch videos and see everything. And all of a sudden it's gonna be like, no, I gotta go see it with my own eyes, man, because I don't know what it's actually like. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, even with like VR, you can at that point see everything.
Right.
You know, with your goggles on, but it's not the same experience and everything.
For sure.
Like so much, I'm sure you feel this as well, of getting to the destination is like the experience of getting there.
Yeah.
That's like the entire part of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even, yeah, all those like the little things. Like, yeah, when we were in Turkey, like looking at the hot air balloons and all that stuff, it's like, dude, Turkish breakfast is the best breakfast I've ever had in my life. It's like, I went to, like, I don't know, I never saw that anywhere. Like, we went to look at these beautiful hot air balloons and, like, the desert and the valley and the canyons. And it was like, but it was really, like, the experience as a whole. Like, when Sarah and I think back, like, Turkey is, like, a top 5 favorite country for us. But, like, it's not for, like, the beautiful sights. It's because, like, it's literally the friendliest people we've ever met. And, like, the food was absolutely insane. It was like you'd wake up for breakfast and they would have like 9 different plates at your table and little like Turkish tea. I was like, this is amazing.
Dang.
Yeah. So it really is about like the experience as a whole. Right?
Yeah. What's been your favorite place you've gone to so far?
Man, probably our 2 favorite places are Iceland. Iceland is just, so unique and beautiful. And then the other one is the Azores, which are islands off the coast of Portugal, very far off the coast of Portugal. So there's out in the middle of nowhere. But they're referred to as like the Hawaii of Europe, and just so beautiful. So I think those 2 really stand out for sure.
Nice. What are your least favorite places you've been to?
Ooh, maybe a hot take here, but the Maldives, like where you see all the beautiful over the water bungalow shots, all the screensavers. We went, I think maybe it was partially our fault, because we're like, let's go to the Maldives for 3 weeks, which is a long time to be in the Maldives. The Maldives is like, I think it's like 1,200 different islands. So each, like any resort in the Maldives just is an island. Like they just own the whole island. So it's like we stayed at a resort for a week, and it was like this little tiny like half mile. Like it was really beautiful, but it was like there wasn't that much to do. And then we went and stayed at a local island, which was really fun. And we were basically there just to try to go swim with whale sharks. So it's the only place in the world you can swim with whale sharks year round. Whale sharks are like the biggest fish in the world. They're massive. So we were out there just like on a boat, just like looking in the water, scouting for them. Eventually did find them. So that was sweet. But then it was like, what else are we going to do? It was just like 105 degrees, like straight sun. It was like, we literally go to the beach from like 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then we'd go like sit in the air conditioning. So anyway, Maldives is probably like a spot where we're like, I don't necessarily need to go back. Dhabi for one of the